Shalom everybody, Shavua Tov, welcome to a new week and welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Raylene Marks, brought to you by Lay of the Land. Now many of you are thinking, wait a minute, you're in the same studio, weren't you going to be on location in Los Angeles? Well, I was, but bureaucracy and all the confusion around COVID and documents prohibited me from flying out on a Saturday night. But not to worry, at least I've traveled the furthest I have been in 2 years by at least making it to the check-in counter. But hopefully that will all be remedied soon, and I look forward to bringing you the Israel Brief on location sometime in the near future. But it has been quite a newsy weekend, so let's jump right in there. And we begin with news that a meeting took place between Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah over the weekend. Now, this is the first time that high-level officials of this kind have met in a decade. And the purpose of this meeting was to discuss how Israel could uplift the Palestinian economy and looked at improving security measures and cooperation between the Palestinians and Israel. Now, Prime Minister Bennett gave his permission and gave his assure, as we say here in Israel, for this meeting to happen, but it was just to discuss security and economic measures. It's not to discuss any plans for a future state anytime soon. At the moment, the economy is an area of focus, and improving that for the Palestinians is on the Israeli agenda. There has been a steady decline in aid that the Palestinian Authority has received. A lot of the criticism is because international aid has gone towards the paying of salaries for terrorists or their families. But at the moment, the Palestinian Authority budget is made up of virtually the tax money that Israel collects on their behalf and gives out to them. So this is a positive step forward, and hopefully it will lead to more cooperation between the two parties soon. Speaking of high-level meetings and cooperation, we were all waiting in anticipation for the meeting between President Biden and Prime Minister Bennett in Washington last week. This was the first state visit for our Prime Minister, and after a delay due to the horrific terror attack in Kabul, which killed over 170 people, including 13 US servicemen, the meeting was held the following day and took place for about 50 minutes. A very, very friendly, conciliatory meeting between the two leaders. Prime Minister Bennett opened his remarks by expressing his condolences for the 13 US servicemen who were killed in the terror attack, which has been claimed by ISIS. The two leaders reiterated the strong bonds between the two countries, and President Biden said that the partnership is absolutely unshakable and that he will do everything in his power to ensure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon, and reiterated the United States' commitment to Israel's security. Prime Minister Bennett also spoke of the shared values that the two countries share and our unbreakable bond, but also reiterated that it is important for Israel to be able to rely on herself for her own defense. The president also then confirmed and committed to restocking Israel's Iron Dome systems. These are crucial defense systems in the case of rocket attacks and mortar attacks from Israel's enemies, whether they be Hezbollah in the north or Hamas and the other terror entities in the south. The two leaders also discussed the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister shared with him that Israel was the first country to start rolling out the third shot, the booster shot. To date, over 2 million Israelis have received that shot, and yesterday it was announced that it is open now to all who are eligible. That's anybody from the age of 12 and upwards who have received their first two vaccines are now eligible to receive the third booster. And President Biden said to Prime Minister Bennett that he has known every single Israeli premier from the days of Prime Minister Golda Meir, and he looks forward to establishing a strong and lasting relationship with Prime Minister Bennett. But what was particularly moving is that the president invited the prime minister to meet with him, to sit with him in his private dining room, and shared that image on social media, which does send out a strong signal of the strong bonds between our two countries. On return back to Israel yesterday, the Prime Minister and his team had to stay there for Shabbat, for the Sabbath, because the meetings ran close to that time. The Prime Minister returned yesterday and said the meetings were successful and that Israel had achieved all its aims. Meanwhile, for the last 2 nights, there have been riots on the border between Israel and Gaza. Thousands of Palestinians have set fire to tires and have thrown explosives. Last night, at least 18 Palestinians were mildly injured, and police have been trying to disperse them with tear gas. However, on Sunday night, the Israeli Air Force jets struck targets in the Gaza Strip in response to incendiary balloons that were sent over the border and set fire to Israeli land. We also brought you the story last week of 21-year-old Israeli soldier Barel Shmuli, who was shot in the head and severely injured. His his situation has deteriorated, and there is an appeal for people, please, to pray for his recovery. If you want to pray for him, his Hebrew name is Barel ben Nitza. That is Barel ben Nitza. And our thoughts and our prayers are with him and his family, and we pray and we hope for a speedy recovery. And our last story of the day takes me to my favorite event, and that's the Paralympics in Tokyo. And let me tell you, it is raining medals for Israel's Paralympic team. Today, the country scooped 2 medals, 1 gold and 1 bronze, an extraordinary performance. It seems to be that we have absolutely excellent Paralympian swimmers. So our medal tally at the moment stands at 7, with 4 golds, 2 silver and a bronze. We congratulate Ami Dadon, who took the gold earlier today, and Mark Malia, who received his 2nd gold over the weekend, but took a bronze this morning for swimming. And of course, Moran Samuel, who took a silver for rowing. So we've really had an extraordinary weekend of Paralympic sports, really representing the best of humanity, and we hope and we look forward to adding more medals to our growing tally. So these are your top stories making headlines in Israel. Don't forget to check out our original content online on our website at www.layoftheland.online. We have an article up there from Rodney Mazinta all about the upcoming Durban conference. This is the 20th anniversary of the UN Conference on Racism. It's up there. It's also on our Facebook page. Check out our Paralympian coverage as well as our content we are posting. If you haven't already given us a like or a follow, please do so, and please share our content. This helps get news from Israel out to as many people as possible. If you are viewing us on YouTube, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel at the Israel Brief. And if you're on Twitter, don't forget to follow us at Lay of the Land 5. That's at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. So with the Monday edition of the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks right here in Modi'in, in the center between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. I wish you all a safe and a healthy rest of your day, and we'll catch up with each other tomorrow.